Hello. I mix languages. I was saying Lipon Pai because I speak Greek as well. Sometimes they crop up, they come up. My Greek words. Anyway, I'm learning another language. One of the reasons why I am thinking up a new language is to relive the experience that I had a long time ago. I learned French from 1987 till 92. I took up Greek 1985, 84, and in 3 years I was very, very fluent in Greek. One life ago. Since then, okay, English is part of me. Italian is part of me, so so one thing is to re-experience this thing. Second thing, there is one option in my mind to leave everything and go live there. Third thing, I took one examination in 1987, but since there I studied 2 or 3 months, so I forgot everything and I didn't learn much. So I decided, okay, I'm taking up Turkish. And I started very, very slowly. It took me a long time to warm up to the language. I decided not to give up and to keep the flame alive. That means to study at least as much as not to forget what the little I had already absorbed. And now I am pushing forward, so to speak. So it's very, I know it's very difficult to learn such, let's say one of those languages we don't have the head start. Yeah, I had kind of a head start knowing Greek, and many words are the same, but really not enough like we have with French, with Spanish, with Portuguese, much less with the Romanian, and in a way with English. So we start with, let's say, yes, there are international words, there are Greek words, there are even some Italian words, months of the year, some of them are the same, just or not the same. Through Greek, Martis, Mart, Maius, Austos, and what else? For the rest is completely different. And one thing I say, don't even think about all the things you need to know, the thousands of words, expressions, formulae, patterns that you need to know. I don't call it grammar, I call patterns. We call it grammar, other people call it grammar. That means the rule to put together words and the rule how to change words. Actually, in Turkish there are more phonetical changes than the grammatical ones. Everything is stuck at the end, is added at the end of the word, except for adjectives that are in front, like English, differently from Italian, which As a rule, they are behind after the word, but sometimes they are before, but that's another kettle of fish. Basic sounds are easy, at least to me, for me, but the general sound of the language is kind of elusive. The accent is kind of strange. There is, but there isn't. It's not like our accent. I may call it stress. Sorry, I said accent. I was thinking the stress from the word. But one thing is important: never give up. Stick to what, forge on, stick to what you have to do. And for example, what do I do when I'm doing this? I have a lot of fun putting all the words in Turkish and Italian, English, visual. I like, and I'm putting all the Turkish words. It takes a while. I check and double check, and I make sure if the word is strange, has several meanings in Italian. I write on the Google Translate the word that I know in English or Italian and Greek means exactly that. Sometimes Google Translate is so wrong, but I double check from language and then back and forth, and 99% of the cases my translations are right. The translations I write down here are right. There are 1%, one or even less of words that I cannot find any translation for some kind of fish. Okay, never mind. This reference thing will be very, very useful to see the picture, and this is a work that is more grammatical. Sorry, exactly the opposite. Vocabulary work. I wrote down from the internet some things, and I read when I'm walking. I have 2 or 3 books with notes, but I have the audio part, all these notes. Some of them are from I got, because there's no Italian edition or English edition. There maybe there's a French, Turkish French, but I know French, as I said before, enough to use it in spite of the fact that I used to speak it a long time ago. So I don't want to give up. I have several reasons. One of the reasons is to leave everything and go live there. I don't know if you have the courage, and I don't know. But first thing, you need to know the language, okay? And I need to remember my Greek, my English, and my Italian, so it can be very useful. If I want to teach languages, I want to to know all these languages. I'm not someone who goes for, many languages, because I tend to learn them quite well. So it's not possible for me, given the fact that it's not my main occupation, to know. I think that my Turkish will never be on a native speaker level. I don't have enough time in front of me. When I learned Greek, it was 1984. I was 21. Now I started Turkish when I'm 55. So I have normal expectations. I will be able to speak fluently if I don't give up, and to understand mostly anything. But one thing is to speak fluently, one thing is to understand, another thing is to have a native level language, another thing is to be able to speak in depth about any subject. And no, but that's not my main goal. I'm not going to be a translator from Italian to Turkish and Turkish Italian. That's not my goal. I already know Italian and English and Greek, modern Greek, on a very good level, and that's enough for me. Turkish is even somewhat eating more than I can chew, but I will make it. Some people speak many more languages than I do. I can make it. Sometimes, you know, this word, I don't remember a very simple word like to pass, to be hungry. Okay, it takes time. It takes time. Now I want to fix a pace. That means every day I have to do this. For example, from tomorrow on, I will copy one chapter of Asimil, and I will work on it. It's very not so much, and my goal is to write all the words I don't know of this. And that will take some time. I think in December. Write all the words I don't know and start rereading with all the notes around in a context. Asimil, and I will end this at the end of a year. But I'm working a lot also on listening to the right pronunciation, because there's one thing I noticed. And all those people who speak Turkish as a second language, they don't have a shred of a Turkish accent. They pronounce single words okay. The Italian girl who speaks Turkish sounds Italian. The Japanese girl who speaks Turkish sounds Japanese. And you say, wow, that's part of the course. Yeah, yes and no. My opinion concerning native level pronunciation is, for example, I'm speaking English now. I'm sure the fact that I live in Italy and I speak Italian and I speak Greek influences the way I speak English. And so sometimes our accent reflects exactly who we are. Okay? And there's nothing wrong with having a tinge of Italian accent, as far as it's not because you don't care. It's because however much you care and you try, there will always be something that's a giveaway. Some Americans who speak Italian and speak other languages are just fucking idiots. Sorry if I say that, because they just don't change their accent. The accent is so thick that it's annoying. Okay, I don't condone this attitude. When you learn a foreign language, you get into the swing of words, not the swing of things. So you follow little by little this musicality. When I learn country music or I learn jazz, I try, and sometimes I subconsciously get that vibe that you can get listening with open ears. Okay? The same goes for languages. Languages have, I heard people who spoke and spoke at the time very good Italian, even Americans, they had a little bit of American accent. Okay, that's normal. But the accent was very, very good. They were not speaking Italian like they were speaking American. Okay? Obviously, there are some languages, for example, even Italian or even English, where it's very difficult to have an example concerning the accent, because actually we in Italy have so many accents, and the same goes for English speaking countries. You have many accents inside a country with a general received pronunciation for British and standard American pronunciation. And when you learn a language dealing with other people, speaking with other people, one day you speak with an Australian person, another day you speak with a British person and an American person, and you end up like not having a specific place accent. For other languages where it's more the accents are more standardized, you don't have this problem. For example, American accents, generally speaking, nowadays, there are less differences among Americans. There are, but generally speaking, nowadays, even in the South, not everybody has a thick Southern accent, and generally speaking, people tend to speak to you in a more standard way than. Not everybody, it depends on their cultural level. So when I speak English, for example, I have my own accent that I think I developed mixing British English with American English. Actually, I think it's more American than British, but it's not the real American accent. I think it's very clear. Maybe people don't like it. Maybe it has something or Italian or Greek. For example, I was singing in Greek before, and there was a word. Every time I said that word, and the word was, I don't remember, pira. Pira in Italian is a kind of fire, but it's a rare word, ancient word for fire. It's in Trovatore, di quella pira all'orrendo fuoco. If you know opera, you know what I'm speaking about. No, in Greek, pira, in modern Greek, from ancient eperno, epiereo, epiereo, epiairo. It means aireo, with ancient pronunciation. It's from the past, epira, and they make. Anyway, it's the I took, and I had to sing, and I took without subject. In Greek, you don't need the subject. You can skip it. And I said pira. Every time pira. No, it's pira. I use, even in Italian, we use that kind of R. And for some reason, when I sing, I had the tendency to use an American or a British accent. Why? Because most of the things I sing are in English. So what happens when I speak Greek, I wouldn't say pira. I would say pira, like in Italian. But when I sing, subconsciously, my brain goes into, I'm singing, that's English, or that's American English, whatever. And our brain works in very strange ways. Anyway, I tend to use Americanisms and American idioms, but when it comes to grammar, I use more British. I say I've just come. I've never done it in my life. I've broken my leg. Now I broke my leg. But vocabulary, it's half. When there's a difference, pronunciation, I don't know. I think subconsciously, to have a middle of the way. I say mother. I don't say mother. I don't know. My R is a little bit not so in your face like in American English. I could say can't or can't. I say, for example, Yeah, I mean, it depends. I can use chips for fried potatoes or French fries. Usually, I tend to use French fries when it comes to fast food, and chips when it comes to homemade fried potatoes. Actually, there is a difference between French fries, which are usually industrially produced and then fried, and the chips that usually you make at home. I'm sure there are ready-made chips, but anyway, I was speaking about the process of learning a language. When it comes to a language that is very, very different, that's the litmus test for the learner. You know, you can get away with Spanish if you speak Italian. With Portuguese, you can make mistakes, and when you learn, you start learning more the differences. Okay, but most of the other words, like at 80%, which is huge, are just the same. Not really just the same with a Spanish accent, with nazione, okay? But I can follow some things in Spanish. I've never studied Spanish. I studied Portuguese. Portuguese is closer to Spanish than Italian. But anyway, I studied Turkish for 8 months now, 6 months, 7 months, and it seems I haven't learned anything. It's not like this. I prepared. I got the lay of the land of the Turkish language. And the beginning is the most exciting, also the most dangerous period of learning a language. Everything is new at the beginning. And for some people, that's gives a rush. I'm learning from zero, and then it changes, and then you learn. You're not a beginner. Then you, in time, from one who starts a language, you become somebody who started the language some months ago and doesn't know shit. It's difficult. That's the phase where people give up. People don't usually give up a language when they came to the point that they can understand the spoken language. I call this in Italian la serie del parlato. Wait, what do I call him? Il flusso, the flux of the speech. When you more or less understand everything except some words or some idioms, or sometimes a cultural gap, you speak about somebody you don't know, and okay, that's normal. The period before that is the most difficult one. Is what is the word? I never forgot I forgot in English. Minefield. Yeah, it's a minefield. Yes, it's a minefield. I forgot. Sometimes you forgot and your mind works immediately and you don't think about it and it comes automatically. It's a minefield. Let's speak out. Nobody says that. All they speak about languages. The period between the first noticeable results, the period before your beginning and your first noticeable results, is the period when you want to give up. You don't realize that your mind has been absorbing things that are, you think you don't know. It's just words that need some other repetition, some other exposure, some other coming up in context, and then they become part of you. So every word that you see, you think you forget, you don't forget it. You don't know. But in your mind, let's say this is the level. Here you remember, okay? To come up here, the word needs, like an iceberg, a lot of exposure. You need to have heard the word or encountered in written text many times. So many times you think you don't know shit because you don't consciously know that you have all these words that are under the surface of the lake, and there are many words. They just need, like an island, some push by the volcano lava, and you get enough land, enough earth to surface. So there are a lot of words that you think you don't know that you are one step from really knowing them. Okay? And maybe there are hundreds of these words, because that's the way it works. You encounter the word, you understand, you look up in a dictionary, and then at least that's for me. I don't have this one time remember memory. No. And you give up. If you could only wait some more. It's like when you sow seeds and seeds are underneath, and you think, okay, these seeds are not alive. I mean, they were dead before I put them into the soil. And you just need to wait, because not every seed germinates, what is a word? Sometimes I get as fast, not every seed grows as fast as other seeds. Sometimes there are how many times you water it, if you water too much, too little, the soil, the temperature, the sun, humidity, and many things. But most of the times they germinate. You just need to wait, and some people don't know that, and they haven't had the experience with the language, because once you have learned one language, one difficult one, and Greek was quite difficult. Now it's not so alien as Turkish. It's a Indo-European word. Many words are common, or Greek are common, and but it's not like English that has a lot of strange grammar for an Italian. But anyway, Turkish is a little bit a step further into the unknown. There are a lot of strange, but once you get a hang of it, it's a very regular language for the most part. You don't have to memorize declinations, conjugations, all this weird stuff that you learn in Greek: masculine, feminine, neutral. This is anthropos, this is one anthropos, ianthropy, gyneka, gynekes. A lot of things do not make any logical sense. There's no practical expressive reason why, if I say vivrio, a plural is vivria, and ora ho detto, right? Kefali, kefalia, gineka, ginekes, anthropos, anthropy. Doesn't make any sense. Turkish, ler. Oh, but they have a harmonic vocal harmony. That's strange. So, but vocal harmony is something weird, but actually makes the language somehow more pleasant. I find it Greek accent. I mean, Greek is hard. Is there is a boom boom. How to put it? It's very rough. Turkish is smooth. That's one of the things I like about Turkish. Pronunciation is such, to me, more pleasant. I found Turkish pronunciation. I don't know why they say, oh, Italian is such a beautiful language. Oh, French is such a beautiful language. I'll tell you something. Turkish is such a beautiful language. Turkish language is rolls, how to put, very well. So every day is a step further, and you just wait and see. All these words you bump into every day. The important is to have text. They are basic. Okay, so you more or less encounter the basic roots of the language in a context, if it's written, and if possible you have also the audio part, and I watch sometimes even other things in Turkish, and even if you don't understand, all these basic words come up frequently, and if they come up and okay, I remember even the meaning of the word, because sometimes you remember the word. I mean, okay, this word I remember, I heard it, but you don't remember the meaning. It's a everlasting process of encountering the word, think you know, and then you forget, you think you know, and then you forget, you think you know, then you forget, you think you know, then you forget, then bam, you know forever. That's the way it works for me. It gets into the long-term memory, and it's perfectly usable and understandable. Once you have a basic grammar, let's say basic understanding of the rules of putting words together, okay, to express a past, a future, and other things. So you don't only know the words, but you know how to use them. So once you know basic grammar and basic vocabulary, and you know them well, and you don't need to process what you're listening. When you hear me speak English, you understand immediately, I hope. You don't process. And when I speak, I don't process, and sometimes I even make mistakes. But avoiding mistakes 100%, it would mean that I speak very slowly so I can process everything. No, it's better to make mistakes than to make the other person in front of you like, what the heck? How come he's speaking like I put my YouTube video to 0.50 or 0.75? It's kind of boring. There are some things that makes the listener annoyed. Speaking too slowly, and speaking with a thick foreign accent. That's why I say you will never speak, or it's very unlikely that you will ever speak exactly like a native, but that's not a good reason not to try to. Because if you try for if you go for a native level accent, you will most likely end with a 90% like that. Okay, which is a lot. I mean, if you can speak like maybe 20-30 seconds and the person don't realize anything, you're damn good. Because, as you see, I speak for half an hour. Oh, half an hour I have all the opportunities to mispronounce one word, to say something that a native speaker wouldn't say, or at least use of natives. You see, native speaker is a concept, but many times you live in a foreign country for 20 years, and the whole concept of native speaker is not something forever. You mean you speak, yeah, but sometimes you forget the word you have to say because you don't. Κοιτάξτε, in Greek. You see, sometimes you speak more the language that you're used, that you speak every day. You're used to doing that every day. So when I came back from France, my tendency was to speak French first, not because I know French better, but because I was so used to doing that for some days it was more spontaneous to me. So my advice is, don't underestimate the fact that our brain process, even if we don't want to, process what we've been exposed to. We think we learn on a conscious way. Yes, let's say we eat, okay? In a conscious way we eat, but all the absorbing of the food gets automatically in a subconscious way. We don't tell our stomach to digest. We don't. If we cannot forget to digest, it's automatic. Okay, you give your brain the right food, he will digest the language. Okay, not immediately, but it will. You need some time. Let's say it's like getting fat or getting thinner or growing muscles. It's not that I don't eat tomorrow I don't eat anything, I'm going to lose weight. No, it takes time. It takes weeks. So don't think, okay, I worked on this language last 2 weeks. I studied 2 hours a day and I see no results. You think you don't. But actually, it's impossible. Every person exposed in the right way to the language can't help but learn it. Okay? Remember this. It's like being under the sun. Surely you have to be exposed to a language in a way that your brain can process. You need to be exposed to some things in a concept where they, even a dog understands directions, but you have to set the stage for the dog to understand. Okay? If a dog can understand, you can, with the right objects, with the right movements, with the right faces the person that tries to teach you the language, try to convey a meaning, you will understand, and that will stick to your brain 10 times more than having read that in a book. So think about this. With the right amount of digestible food, you can help but absorb the language. And it's up to you to find the right things. Children books, even specific video for learners when they show, for example, I want to teach you Greek. Pinot Nero, Pinozzai, Pinot Cafe. I didn't tell you that Pinot means a drink, but it's not so difficult to understand. So, Nero, it's water. Zai is tea. Maybe you haven't understood this, but cafe in a coffee. It's the situation, the context. So, the first enemy is the terrain, the space, the gap, the distance from the trench to the enemy. You know, when you go out and you have to attack the enemy, you get out from the trench, and then most of these people get killed. Okay? When you start a new language, you get out and you, for the most part, you can't do anything. When you overcome this, being shot, and you get to the enemy, you can fight the enemy for real. So when you start a new language, there's a period when you get some information and you cannot really understand. I'm speaking about languages that are different, okay? I'm not speaking about very similar languages, okay? I'm not speaking about learning Azerbaijani if you're Turkish, or learning Ukrainian if you're Russian, or vice versa. I'm speaking about a language that, is really like an enemy that with a machine gun and kills everybody. That's another. And so be brave. And after all, the enemy is inside you, okay? Inside you is doubts, I'm not learning, okay, or no. Be patient. Be patient. Even if you're doing things the wrong way, let's assume that. How wrong can it be? You will start understanding the language. And when you start understanding, and you can watch videos, simple videos, in time you don't need specific studies. You just practice the language. You just pay attention to new words, new idioms, new structures. The language itself is a living, breathing lesson to you. Every time you listen, you hear the foreign language, you listen to it, you read. It's a lesson. It's up to you to make a lesson. Okay? When I watch something in Italian or read a book, in spite of Italian is supposed to be my native language, I always find words okay that I don't know. Okay, think that even a native speaker doesn't understand everything. Okay, so I've been speaking a long time, but if you're interested, like everything, first of all, you can stop and resume. If you're here, you are obviously interested. So I'd say that there are a lot of other, a lot of advice concerning languages, about method, it's right what they say, but sometimes people are scared, but the same things that should help you. If you want to do that, you should do that and that and that and that and that, and they make you sometimes. All this advice may make you think that's, God, I have to do this and this and this and this and this and this, and like they put you off. So I'd say instead of what, in spite of what other people say about language, obviously if you your make conference, I don't remember, you should not say, okay, my friends, as long as you practice the language every day, you will learn the language. No, okay, they have to streamline that. And this kind of advice is perfectly alright for some kinds of people. People who like to take a challenge, people who like it to face reality. But there are other people that are less self-assured. And all these things, they say, oh God damn it, I have to do this and this and this and this. And say that, what about those people who don't have that kind of approach and they are left out? I'd say, okay, those people are different and it will take more time, twice as much, 3 times as much, better than not trying at all. When we say first blood, you get first blood. There are so many idioms in English. Those people at the beginning maybe don't want to do the right way. They, okay, I want, and then in time, when you warm up to the language, you just hit it off with the language. You start saying, I want to do things the right way. I know I like it. I want to learn language, and I'm doing these things. Maybe after some months, after 2 years, but they have been learning something. Okay, I say something that nobody says. Sometimes you need to make mistakes to understand how to do certain things. So, but one thing is very important. Never give up. Do things every day as much as you can. And my opinion is that in the long run, even if your method is not streamlined, it's not the best, it's not whatever, you will succeed. Sooner or later, you will succeed. You know why? Because even the most stupid person that was born in Russia speaks Russian. Okay? Some people speak first before other people. Some people know more words. Some people have a huge command of the language. but every person speaks that language. So if all the other Russians made it, you build around you a little bit of Russian, okay? So you live the language. I live the language, even copying words and seeing things, okay, in Turkish. And then in time, I start put things together, the grammar, the words, the thing I watch on television. There is a part of buckle down and read all my notes that have audio part. But every linguist says something different, slightly different, and I have my ideas, but I want to say, I impose on other people. Let's say that if a long time passed and you're not as proficient as you like to be, okay, I try another method. I try doing things in a different way. That's my 2 cents. And sometimes without even knowing it, you will wake up one day and you realize that you understand, you can speak, you listen to the radio and you say, God damn it, I fucking understand Turkish. I understand Turkish, a language that most people are scared of. Tell you something, it's not Japanese, it's not Korean, it's not Arabic, it's much easier for several reasons. But it's still according to American standard, is a level 3 language. So it's more difficult than German. First level for English speakers are Italian, French, Dutch. Second level is other languages like German and other languages. And Turkish is a level 3, which is quite difficult, but it's not a level 4 like Arabic, Korean, Japanese, Chinese, okay? So, why such a long... When I get starting speaking about languages or other things, I have so many things to say because I've been teaching languages and learning languages, so I have a huge experience. But I don't have the kind of experience of proficient hyper polyglots that have another method. They really have to streamline things, and they have another approach. Because my approach here doesn't work, because it's not the best approach, but is sometimes the best approach for people who are not ready to do things by the books, because many people are not used to doing that and they get scared. So I'd say I've been dealing with Turkish for 6 months and never gave up. I should have done more, but I preferred, okay, I was depressed. I had all my time on my hands. It was quarantine period, but really it was, and it still is, a very bad period for Italy. I wouldn't call it period, situation, because period gives the idea that it changes. It's not going to change unless we fight back against the system, the establishment, the mainstream thing. But anyway, and one of the reasons I want to study, to learn Turkish, to leave everything behind and go back to the lira. Not the Italian lira, the Turkish lira. So, goodbye. I hope you enjoyed my different points of view on how to learn a foreign language if you're not ready to do everything by the book. Goodbye.